Between 1764 and 1767, an unknown creature killed over 100 people in a rural region of France known as Gévaudan. The attacks, which covered an area spanning 80 square kilometers, were said to have been committed by one or more beasts with formidable teeth and immense tails, according to contemporary witnesses. The first recorded fatal attack of the beast occurred on June 30, 1764, when a 14-year-old shepherdess, Chinée Boulet, tended a flock of sheep. Previously to this incident, another girl, Marine Jean Valette, who was tending cattle in the Mercoeur forest, saw a beast like a wolf, yet not a wolf, come at her. However, the wolves in the herd charged the beast, keeping it at bay. Throughout the remainder of 1764, more attacks were reported across the region. Very soon, terror gripped the populace because the beast was repeatedly preying on lone men, women and children as they tended livestock in the forests around Gévaudan. The remains of the victims were ghastly. The throat was always ripped out, sometimes completely decapitating the victim. The bodies were ripped to pieces, and the amount of people killed was staggering. The beast's victims were often left partially eaten or dismembered. Sometimes missing limbs or heads were found several dozen yards away from the body. The main records of these attacks were the parish registers, where birth and death were recorded, sometimes specifying the cause of death. These registers mention a bête, the French word for beast. In popular tradition, as soon as a wild animal started killing humans, it became a bestia, in Latin, a monster. On January 12, 1765, Jacques Portefeuille and 7 friends were attacked by the beast. After several attacks, they drove it away by staying together. The encounter eventually came to the attention of Louis XV, who awarded 300 livres to Portefeuille and another 350 livres to be shared among his companions. The king also rewarded Portefeuille with an education at the state expense. He then decreed that the French state would help find and kill the beast. As the head count of the dead rose, the local officials and aristocrats took action. Etienne Lafont, a regional government delegate, and Captain Jean-Baptiste Duhamel, a leader of the local infantry, organized the first concerted attack. At one point, the number of volunteers rose to 30,000 men. Duhamel organized the men along military models and left poison bait for the beast. But none of these efforts were successful in killing the beast. On February 17, 1765, 2 hunters sent by the king arrived at Gévaudan, Jean Vaumesle d'Enneval and his son, Jean-François. Over the next 4 months, the pair hunted for Eurasian wolves, believing that one or more of these animals was the beast. However, when the attacks continued, the animals were replaced in June 1765 by François Antoine, the king's sole arquebus bearer and lieutenant of the hunt, who arrived in the region on the 22nd of June. In 1765, François Antoine shot a large grey wolf using a large caliber musket. The wolf was over 5.5 feet long and weighed over 60 kilograms. Antoine wrote to the king, "We declare by the present report signed from our hand, we never saw a big wolf that could be compared to this one, hence we believe this could be the fearsome beast that caused so much damage." The beast was stuffed and sent to Versailles and Antoine stayed in the area to hunt what he believed was the beasts made in pups. He succeeded in killing both and went back to the king's court, where he received a large sum of money for his valiant work and the fame of killing the Beast of Gévaudan. 2 months later, the attacks continued. This only added to the supernatural aspect of the creature, starting with 2 young boys who barely escaped. Once again, the body count stacked up, and in 18 months, up to 35 were slaughtered. The royal court chose to ignore these new attacks, insisting that Antoine had killed the creature. Finally, a sudden outbreak of attacks in early June 1767 compelled a local nobleman, the Marquis de Besseyre, to organize a hunt. On June 19th, one of the hunters, a local man named Jean Chastel, shot a wolf on the slopes of Mont Mouchet. An autopsy of the animal revealed human remains inside, and the animal had non-wolf characteristics as described by the witnesses. After this, no more attacks were reported. So, what was the Beast of Gévaudan? The beast was consistently described by witnesses as something other than a typical wolf. It was as large as a calf, or sometimes a horse. Its coat was reddish, grey with a long, strong panther-like tail. The head and legs were short-haired and the color of a deer's. It had a black stripe on its back and talons on its feet. Many drawings of the beast at the time endow it with lupine characteristics. Witnesses described the beast as an ambush hunter, which stalked its prey and seized it by the throat. The wounds found on the bodies were typically to the head and limbs, with the remains of 16 victims reportedly decapitated. The creature prowled in the evenings and in the mornings. There is much speculation on the subject of the beast's true identity: a large rogue wolf, a mastiff, an hyena, or even a human. A National Geographic article on the subject believes it may have been a young lion. During the 18th century, nobles had menageries and private zoos, and one of these animals may have escaped, and judging by the description of some of the victims, this hypothesis is completely plausible. One expert on the event believes it may have been a pack of large wolves walking together. Others have suggested that a human serial killer may have been the responsible for the attacks. Many of the victims were reportedly to be decapitated, something few animals could do. While it is unlikely that a killer would roam about for victims in broad daylight, wearing a bestial costume, those who support this theory believe that a human killer used an animal to carry out its crimes. So, what was the animal? Some have speculated that it was an armored war dog, which explains its strange appearance and why it shredded musket shots. Either way, the Beast of Gévaudan went down in the annals of history as a supernatural beast of terrifying power and ferocity. Thank you for watching.